And it's confession time, so gather round, throw another log on the fire, and let's see how we do with today's tale. Don't forget, of course, that the very best one of the week, as decided by us, this is not a public, but this is just us, really, wins the smart speaker. So if you have a tale that you think needs some kind of reward, then we would like to hear from you. And you send it to confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk. Sister Susie is in position.
I am indeed.
Brother from another gutter is there.
Yes.
And tonight's tale comes from Mr. Farmer. Thank you, Mr. Farmer. There is a clue there as to where this is headed. Father Simon, now here's an opening sentence which is going to grab the attention, in my opinion.
Here we go.
Whilst working as a close protection bodyguard, now I've actually changed some of this sentence to make it less specific.
Okay.
Really?
Whilst working as a close protection bodyguard for the then king of an important and in the news country's granddaughter in the late 90s, who was on extended holiday in Europe. Okay, so at this point I'm thinking my attention is peaked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested.
Mind you, if you're the granddaughter of a king, an extended holiday is pretty much what your life consists of.
Wow.
So anyway,
Controversial.
Nice.
do you think? Are there any hard-working princesses working at the coalface?
I'm sure there are. But anyway.
Anyway, so Mr. Farmer is working for the then king of a big country. His granddaughter, this is the late 90s.
Yes.
Okay, got that?
Yes. Established that.
We were staying in a fabulously posh hotel in Paris and had been there for about 2 months. I mean, there's a
Wow.
A rather fine gaff, as I'm sure you appreciate, Father Simon. Maybe it was like the Radio 1 Roadshow hotels that we got to stay in over the years. The standards of luxury were off the charts. Gold and platinum covered everything.
Yeah.
Listen, Mr. Farmer.
Yeah.
We offered £14 a night was the maximum because everyone had to make money off the expenses. So
Wow.
that's kind of the way that happened. Anyway, so no, it wasn't at all like that. There were various celebrities there, on and off. Bryan Adams, lovely bloke. Mick Hucknall, and so many others. Again, just like your roadshow hotels, maybe. It was a cavalcade of the rich and the famous. Also, here we go, the one and only Celine Dion arrived to stay for about a month,
Wow.
together with her bodyguard, a man who was a cross between a prop forward and a freight train. After a couple of days, Miss Dion's party and my own happened to be passing through reception at the same time. And my princess, a fan of Miss Dion's music, decided to approach and say hello as she approached me closely at her shoulder. Well, Man Mountain rushed forward and thrust his hand right up in the face of the princess and shouted, "No!" very abruptly and crossly.
Wow.
I immediately defended my party and politely pointed out the error of his ways and diffused the situation. Rule number 1, never put your hand in the face of a royal princess, particularly one that's taking it easy on holiday. And rule number 2, never say no to a royal princess in that aggressive way. Well, Celine, seeing the error of his ways, you don't act that way in that particular company, stepped in and very impressively had a long and friendly conversation with the princess. She even sent a gift later. But my pride had been dented, as I wasn't expecting his aggressive action, so I planned revenge. You don't mess with me, you don't mess with a princess. Well, how does a bodyguard exact revenge? You might imagine a bare-knuckle fight in vest and pants, a duel at sunrise. That wasn't really. A duel at sunrise, also in vest and pants, or a motorcycle race to the death across the rooftops of Marrakesh.
Yeah.
In vest and pants. Well, almost, but not quite. Miss Dion would occasionally go out with friends for an evening incognito, leave her bodyguard in the suite. So on the 2 occasions that she did this, my team members were pointed out, and she left so that we could get on our mobiles and phone around all of the local Italian delivery companies around the district and order pepperoni pizzas for the suite.
Ah. There you go, you see.
40 at a time.
Oh.
The hotel wouldn't question a guest request, would pay for them and then deliver to the suite. Imagine the fun. Imagine Man Mountain's face as the pepperoni kept on coming. More cheese than the Radio 1 Roadshow in 1982.
Oh, we're back there.
Father Simon. Anyway, it's a torrid tale, but I don't seek forgiveness from the Man Mountain, who had to dispose of all the pizzas, but from Celine Dion, who probably
Oh, again, he's done it.
Had to foot the bill. He did eventually apologise to my principal, and I guess he knew who sent the pizzas. I still chuckle, Simon, when I remember my and my team's childish actions. Celine Sweet would have smelt of cheese and dampened type of cardboard for quite a while, I have to let you know. But the key thing is anyone going to forgive us? That's the thing. And is it the funniest of the week? Well, we'll sort that out in due course. But Mr. Farmer wants forgiveness, first of all, from Sister Susie from the pub.
Well, Mr. Farmer, do you know what? The person I don't like in this is Celine Dion's bodyguard. He's a bit hard-handed, isn't he? He was a bit mean. Celine Dion probably told him he should have thought twice. Did you see that?
Boom, there you go.
But I think
Celine
it was
Dion's
actually...
greatest hits being referenced here.
But I think it was actually, do you know what? It was a bit mean, maybe, if Celine Dion foot the bill, but she's got lots of money. And, you know, it was a bit fun. So I'm in a forgiving mood today, so I am going to forgive.
Brother from another guy.
Yes, I mean, I'm going to forgive just because it's really funny. And I love the references to Bryan Adams and Mick Hucknall. Very, very funny. Yeah, I mean, you know, everyone won out of it because, you know, they got 40 pepperoni pizzas being delivered. Although my guess is that after eating 40 pepperoni pizzas, my heart wouldn't go on. Hey!
Good.
My heart would go on, Suze! Bang on the money. So yes, I'm going to forgive.
People's verdict, that is what it's going to depend on. Do you forgive Mr. Farmer, yes or no? It's on the text, please. That's what it is. You have to text in, don't you?
You do have to text in.
You do. You have to text in on 61054.
Oh, that's the number. Brilliant.
You start your message with Simon. 61054. Start your message with Simon. I knew what it was. Anyway, the people's verdict is in on tonight's confession, which came from Mr. Farmer. A story of bodyguard getting their own back on another bodyguard by ordering a whole pile of pizzas to get their own back. Anyway, it was a sumptuous tale, and here's the verdict like this.
Yes, totally forgiven, says Rachel, if only for Mr. Farmer having the same surname as Kevin Costner's character in The Bodyguard.
Funny that.
Funny how that works. Phil Hogan from Stafford says, forgiven. I played a prank like the one in Mr. Farmer's confession once. It's all coming back to me now. Celine's bodyguard, take a pizza that, says Penny. And finally, Leonardo says, forgiven for the Titanic of pizzas.
Leonardo as well.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay. If you have a confession, we would love to hear from you. It has its own email address, obviously. It's confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk. This is Drive Time from Greatest Hits Radio. Matt, remember, you're too loud.
I am too loud.
In almost everything, okay?
Just the way I like it.
So you just need to back
Yeah,
off.
but just not the way everyone else likes it.
Yeah, no, they all love it.
Anyway, a little bit of studio banter. Yeah. Well, we're up and running, and we're starting here with today's confession, which comes from Monty. Monty, thank you so much for this. And if it's the best of the week, maybe Monty will get a smart speaker. That's what I'm saying. Father Simon of the Forgiving Crew. This confession takes us back to the mid-90s. I was living on my own in a small village. I've never been brilliant at DIY, but I would always eagerly give it a go. That's a helpful piece of biog for you. My neighbours were elderly. Let's call them Homer and Marge. But they were very nice. The only thing I found a little off about them was that the day I moved in, Homer saw fit to bang on his fence and tell me in no uncertain terms that he and his wife wanted a nice quiet life and no noise from all-night parties. Now, this is probably due to the fact that I was a heavily pierced goth and had death metal playing in the car on my cassette tape. How about that?
Brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Period item. As time went on, Homer and Marge realised that I wasn't a loud, all-night partying, heavy metal-loving lout that they might have originally feared. And indeed, when they got to know me a little bit and realised that actually I was a paid carer for a living and loved my job, they soon became very welcoming indeed. I was given a tour of their garden, and special attention was given to Homer's beautiful flowers, which he tended and admired every day. He had a prize-winning display of primroses, begonias and roses.
What's
Well, just hardcore confessions listeners will know that as soon as any vegetable or flower is mentioned, it's not gonna end well.
Oh dear.
Basically, the primroses were his pride and joy. There you go, even more. Purple and yellow, as I recall. Even I could see that they were grand. He even said Homer, that he talked to them and that they were his friends. On the day in question, I arrived home to see that the shed I'd built with my dad had more than its fair share of big and very spiky weeds growing all around it. Well, I'd recently bought some weed killer and decided that I could probably use it here.
No.
I mean, who knows?
Who knows where this is going?
The instructions on the weed killer talked about mixing the powder contained in the box. Never try any of this at home, by the way.
No.
To mix it all up and then basically water the weeds. Well, I mixed up the powder with the correct ratio of water inside the watering can, and I got on with the task in hand. Now, Father Simon, I mentioned that I wasn't a whiz at DIY or indeed gardening, and I was fast realising that I was no Einstein either at working out where gravity would take the water. So you guessed it, the weed-killing liquid made fast work of my tall and spiky weeds, but was now progressing with increasing speed towards Homer's prized flowers. There was nothing that I could do but watch this torrent of killer liquid run down the path, under the fence, and just settle in his flowers. It pulled around the roses and the begonias, but in the main it seemed to head for the primroses. The prize-winning primroses, the primroses that he talked to and that were his friends.
Oh, no.
Bother, I thought. I emptied the remaining weed killer onto a patch of empty soil in my garden and then quickly filled up the watering can with ordinary water and tried to dilute the weed killer. All that seemed to do, though, was to make a small puddle a bit bigger.
Yeah.
Anyway, I did what friends would do in this situation, anyone really. I just went inside my house and put on some Fields of the Nephilim.
Oh, Fields of the Neph.
Also some Southern Death Cult.
Oh,
which is why I mentioned earlier.
Okay.
To be the first confession which involves primroses and Southern Death Cult.
Wow.
A few days later, I happened to see Homer and asked how he was doing. He seemed a little bit down. He told me that he was feeling really sad because some bloomin' hooligans had been at his flowers and had killed them all. All my friends have gone, he said. And I know who did it too.
Oh.
Oh, you do? I said slightly nervously. Yes, he said. They were all taken down by the Mackeys and the Johnsons. They're our local crime families. I had that in. I changed the names.
Oh, good.
It's always them, he said. So basically, that was how it stayed. I told him that I was really sorry to hear that, but reminded him with false optimism that all the flowers he still had in his greenhouse, but all Homer could say with a heavy sigh was that they were his family, the flowers that were gone, they were his favourites, and that he ever got his hands on the Mackeys and the Johnsons, changed their name, he would not be held responsible for his actions.
There it is. 2 in a row.
Drama! Anyway, Father Simon, I truly felt guilty for hours afterwards. And although this happened years ago, I'm not proud of my silence to Homer. So I beg forgiveness, not just from Homer and Marge, because even it's all that time ago, they weren't in the best of health, and they've probably taken up residency in that great garden in the sky, but from their son, mainly, to whom they had doubtless recounted the story time and time again. Also to the Mackeys and to the Johnsons, who I let take the blame. I've changed the
Change your names, yeah.
All the best from Monty, who needs a little bit of forgiveness if we can send some his way. But we're going to have to see what happens as far as that's concerned. Let's check in. Nice fade there. Sister Susie from the pub, we turn to you for some forgiveness, please.
Well, Monty, I feel for you here because, yes, your neighbours, Homer and Marge, they shouldn't have judged a book by its cover. You were a nice neighbour. You just might not have looked particularly nice. They judged you, and that's not fair. However, I just don't know if I can. It's just, of course, what's going to happen. It's like a sitcom. Of course, you get the weed killer out. He's got prize primroses. It's not going to go well. No. So I just don't know what to do. But I think you were a bit mean with his plants and, talking to them.
Today,
I know
Susan.
I am very indecisive. But I think you were a bit mean. I am not going to forgive you.
Okay, so you're one down, Monty. Let's see what happens with the brother from the gutter.
So I'm going to forgive. And the reason, plants grow back. don't they? The flowers, they will have. I mean,
if they've been killed with
not the same
not
ones.
those plants,
Not the prize ones.
But I'm pretty sure that the way that nature works is that the seed falls from the flower, then it grows,
a weed killer.
Grows in the soil. Maybe not that year, maybe a year later. I mean, I'm not an expert in gardening, but I'm going to say that's pretty much how it works. So I am going to. And who is this crime family that are targeting primroses? I think we need to be told. So I am going to forget. And a mention of Fields of the Neff. Underplayed on Greatest Hits Radio, I would suggest.
Probably.
So I'm going to forgive.
Okay, on the text, though, people's verdict. Do you forgive or not? That's the question. Monty's confession was all about dead flowers and a little bit of weed killer and criminal families. Anyway, the people's verdict is in like this.
So not forgiven, says Andrew. This goth idiot shouldn't be allowed access to herbicide if he can't read or follow the instructions. Sigh. Jerry from Somerset says forgiven. If in doubt with weed killer, blame the cats. That's what I always do. Jeff from Watford, forgiven. It can almost be a sketch out of Keeping Up Appearances, and blame the locals, even better. But finally, Lucy says not forgiven. I made the error of leaving my children in charge of my also award-winning plants when going away once, and I've not recovered from the heartbreak of them killing them. The same ones won't grow back, Matt. Actually, I think you'll find your confession would be welcome. Confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk. And if it's the best, then you get the smart speaker. That's the way it works. And it's time for the confession to leave platform 5. And what we're after here is the finest of the week. And then we'll decide that tomorrow. Then the smart speaker will be allocated. Mm-hmm. That's the way it works. Sister Susie already in position.
I am.
Live from the saloon bar. And the brother from another gutter has just wandered in.
Yes.
There you go. Turn you on.
I'm here.
I mean, fade you up. Same thing.
Same thing.
Tonight's tale comes from Gorgeous George. Good evening to you, Gorgeous George. Simon, part-time producer and potty brain.
Wow.
Well, you've lost.
Yeah, John. I don't need to hear any
Not
more.
forgiven.
Wow.
Already, I think Gorgeous George coming over slightly cocky, don't you think?
Yeah.
Okay, my confession goes back to Easter 1982, just before my O-levels. I was on holiday in Gran Canaria with my parents. I spent most of my first few days around the pool, and as you do, found myself checking the talent who'd also booked a holiday round about this time, and I found my eyes drawn to a young girl with her family. Now, I was a shy 15-year-old. I went to an all-boys school, so like most of the boys in my class, didn't have a lot of experience with the fairer sex, says Gorgeous George. It's the early 80s.
Yeah.
I couldn't bring myself to chat to her. I wouldn't know how to, for one, and was so nervous I'd have looked rather foolish. A couple of days into the holes, I was stood at the bar, next to this lad who looked a couple of years older than me. He was wearing a black leather jacket, looked very cool. We got talking, and he was Scottish. Larry McTavish was his name.
Right.
And it
This is not going well so far.
turns out we were the same age, even though he looked a lot older than me. The young lady in my affections had also found a friend who was hot, but my
Right.
but my heart was already set on Dawn, as I later found out she was called. Mm-hmm. Well, now we could couple up with more confidence, what with Larry and me. And anyway, we got chatting to these two fine ladies.
Different times, everyone. Let's not judge.
Definitely different
So,
times.
even though you already have.
Yeah.
And there's children.
So roll
teenagers.
forward a day or two. I found myself alone with Dawn, and she invited me back to her room.
Oh.
We stood on the balcony chatting. Me in my 80s singlet and small shorts.
Wow.
Useful.
Details. Yeah.
Useful detail.
I don't know what that is.
Good. Move on.
It's a little vest.
Yeah, it's the best. That's all it
You
is.
remember Tight Fit? It was one of those.
Yes. In the jungle, the mighty jungle.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Anyway, there we were on the balcony chatting when we both had a key in the door. We better keep the short song at the end of this, I think.
Yes.
Anyway, we heard a key in the door. Quick, hide in the wardrobe, she said.
Oh, come on.
Thinking, again, she was confused. She thought we were in a sitcom
Yeah.
from 1975. So anyway, in I went into a cramped wardrobe that was full of stuff and not much room for me. I did think momentarily about changing my clothes to disguise myself, but in the end I realised I would still be a boy hiding in the wardrobe,
Yes.
which is a bit of a giveaway. Somehow Dawn managed to lead the rest of her family out of the room and I exited the cupboard. I waited a minute or two. I opened the door to the room to make my escape. However, I could hear voices in the distance by the lifts. They were coming back. I had no idea who they were, but assumed it was Dawn and her family. Well, I was right, and I heard the door key go again. And Dawn came in first. Well, I wasn't going back in that wardrobe, so she pushed me back onto the balcony. And Dawn pulled the curtain right across the window before her family came in. However, she had left a gap between the curtains and the wall, so I could see into the room if I stood in a certain spot. All I could see was a mirror on the wall by the window, and I stood there pondering my escape. I couldn't climb down as we were on the 4th floor. I then saw Dawn's grandma come to the mirror to start her nighttime routine.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no!
No, wait.
No.
Nothing unusual with this routine. It just involved removing her makeup and putting on her night cream.
Okay.
I watched these activities, and when she finished, her face was as white as a ghost. If you remember the film Mrs. Doubtfire, when Robin Williams had to put his face into a cream cake
Yes.
to disguise the fact that he wasn't in character, well, it was like that.
Okay.
And then she reached for her nightrobe. However, what I didn't realise was that if I could see her, she could, of course, see me. And that became apparent when I heard a scream from the grandma that I'd been spotted.
Hey!
The curtain was thrown back by Dawn's mother, the patio door was opened, and I got, "You weirdo, out!" They shrieked, and out I went, tail between my legs in my small shorts, and that was that. Grandma was hyperventilating. Her watery eyes followed me as I was kicked out of the room. The next day, Dawn wasn't interested in chatting to me, and I don't think we ever chatted again. There was no romance in it for me, so therefore, here we go. I need to ask forgiveness from a poor old lady who was just doing her thing before bed, hoping for a comfortable night's sleep, only to be frightened by the boy in the vest on the balcony and the small shorts. She could have had a heart attack seeing me on there, but luckily she didn't, and all ended well. But I do need forgiveness from Dawn's grandma, despite the fact that she's almost certainly no longer with us by now.
Okay.
Because this was 39 years ago.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so let's see what Sister Susie's going to make of this, the voice of authority from the pub.
Oh, well, gorgeous George, there's a few things that I've got issue with here. First of all, just you hid in the wardrobe. Why was the wardrobe full of stuff? Like in a
That's
hotel.
what you put in the wardrobe.
Yeah, but in a hotel, you go to a
Holiday
hotel,
stuff.
you don't put your holiday stuff anyway. I don't. No, you've got a suitcase.
What are you putting in the wardrobe? Why is it there if you're not putting your stuff in the wardrobe?
I don't know. You could have
don't know.
more space. Couldn't
Susie
you?
just scatters hers on the floor.
Clearly. That's what...
I did like the mention of Mrs. Doubtfire. However, I don't think you were very nice to Dawn and her family. Scared living daylights out of her grandma. And also, you called me part-time. So I'm not very happy with you, gorgeous George.
There we go.
So I'm not forgiving you.
There we get to the heart of it, I think. Brother from the gutter.
You know, it's always so easy to judge people from from 50 years ago, 30 years ago, 40. I don't know how long ago 1982 was. It was a very long time. And it's very easy for us to sit here and apply our 21st century principles to 1982. And that's exactly what I'm going to do now when I don't forgive, because frankly, gorgeous George, you had this coming. Standing out there in your singlet and shorts.
We've all done that.
We've all done it, except I haven't. And so therefore I don't forgive.
Don't forgive.
Okay, it's a rare moment of moral clarity from but it's the people's verdict. Do you forgive gorgeous George, yes or no? On the text 61054. First word is Simon. That's 61054. We had a confession tonight from gorgeous George. It was sitcom land from 1982 in Gran Canaria. He was hiding in the balcony. He was hiding in the wardrobe. He was wearing a singlet and shorts.
Yeah.
And he had a slightly scary experience with an older lady.
Yes.
But it wasn't the older lady's fault.
No.
Everything was Gorgeous George's fault.
Yes, it
People's
was.
verdict like
Quite
this.
right.
Here it comes.
Jackie says, excuse me, the 80s were great, and I forgive him. I don't think he scared the grandma. She probably just thought he was being a silly teenager. Susan says, not forgiven, though. Overconfident George lost me at the intro. And Stuart in Amazon says, I think Gorgeous George needs to change his name to Curious George for peeping through the curtain. That, combined with missing the cue from Dawn to get out of the room ASAP, is certainly unforgivable.
This just in.
And this just in, not read this already, so here we go. Alex in Cambridge says, you may have just played part-time lover, but Susie is a full-time producer nonetheless. Forgiven for the balcony, as it was hilarious, but not sure anyone can be forgiven for the 80s singlet.
Okay, very good. That was the latest that was just in.
Just in from Alex.
Off the fax machine.
Definitely. It was worth it.
So we have one more confession in the week. Maybe Gorgeous George is going to actually going to win the smart speaker. You never know, but there's one more, and it could be yours. confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk. If you have a fantastic story, maybe it comes from Gran Canaria. Maybe it involves you hiding in a cupboard or hiding from a balcony or being discovered, whatever it is. We would like to hear the story, please. confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk. It's just that, the three-worders are coming in, so I'm kind of inclined to squeeze a little bit of Christmas juice somewhere, if that is such a thing. Anyway, it's confession time. Then we have to decide our favourite of the week and allocate the rather wonderful and shiny and perfect Christmas present, smart speaker.
Oh, yeah.
I'm thinking in Christmas terms. Final one of the week comes from Olivia. Good afternoon, Olivia. Father Simon. I'll have you know, she says, I'm a 39-year-old happily married woman.
Good start. Yeah.
My husband and I have been together since I was 21.
Okay.
We are very happy.
Okay.
In my late teens, however, I did date but was fairly timid. So the events I'm about to describe were quite out of character. Honestly, they really, really were out of character. I'm not like this at all. I wouldn't want you to think badly of me.
This is so promising. This is very good.
It all happened when I was around 18 or 19 years of age in the early 2000s. I'd recently split from a steady boyfriend, and friend and I had decided a night out was in order. You know how it is. At this point, I would like to add that due to a recent resurgence in popularity, I was wearing a pair of leather trousers. The reason for noting this will soon become clear. Quite why I'm apologising in tone for wearing these fabulous trousers, I'm not sure, but they were leather and fabulous. Well, they can often give the wrong impression, and I wouldn't want that because I'm not that kind of girl. My friend and I found ourselves going to a house party with a group of boys that we had just met. But I'm not like that normally.
No, okay.
They were okay in general. But I was up for fun and fancy business. That's
Why not?
basically. So that's what happened. Fun and fancy business proceeded.
Yes.
This is where you avert your gaze, Father Simon, as the sorry saga continues. I really am rather ashamed of everything that happened. Anyway, Lucas was the man in question, and if you squinted hard at him, he looked a bit like Tom Cruise's older brother in a few years' time.
Oh, dear.
And it was dark. Anyway, who cares about any of that? I think he ran the pet store.
Oh.
Which wasn't somewhere I had ever visited because I don't like pets. Anyway, a lot of information.
Yes, unnecessary.
I woke early the next morning with a sense of absolute panic. I also vaguely remembered someone saying that my friend was going to leave early as she had work that morning. Now, remembering that I didn't do this kind of thing, I needed to get out fast. Now, anyone who's ever worn leather trousers will know that putting them on never happens at speed. I tottered, I stumbled, I applied talcum powder, I then tottered again, tugged, pulled.
Oh, no.
And after what felt like an age, they were on. What a relief. Also, I hadn't woken Pet Shop Lucas, who was still asleep. I ran downstairs to be greeted with a house full of sleeping revellers. What a rabble they looked. Immorality was everywhere, Father Simon, I have to tell you.
Oh, wow.
I quietly tried the front and back doors because I had to get out. To my horror, they were both locked, with no keys in sight. And that's when I spied my exit plan, an open window above the kitchen sink.
Oh, dear.
I clambered up onto the side, swung myself out, jumped down to freedom.
Oh, no.
No, actually, that's not what happened.
No.
What actually happened was as I swung my leather-trousered legs out of the window, I jumped and crashed straight through a wheelie bin lid. I was in the wheelie bin like Top Cat.
Oh, no!
I jumped out with such speed I'd made a rather large hole, which only made this worse as I tried to heave myself back out. As I look back on this now, I realise, had I not been wearing those leather trousers, I would probably have suffered a very painful injury, which I imagine is absolutely right. As it was, I crashed into the wheelie bin, crashed it to the floor, and then fled, leaving a very broken wheelie bin and rubbish strewn all over the floor. Nappy sacks, takeaway rubbish, bin bags bursting, you name it. It was spread over the tiles. So here we go. Now, Father Simon, I need to seek forgiveness from that house-sharing group, none of whose names I know, obviously, who will probably have woken up and thought they'd been burgled. I also seek forgiveness for what can only have been a costly task trying to get a replacement wheelie bin, as we all know that the council won't have believed their story about a leather trouser-wearing Cinderella having caused the hole in the first place. Can I just say in my defence, says Olivia at the end, that I'm not that kind of girl?
No.
So that's so there you go. That's an interesting fairly, there was an awful lot of justification going on there, an awful lot of extenuating circumstances for Olivia. Let's see what Sister Susie makes of that from the pub.
Well, Olivia, do you know what? I love that, and I feel so sorry for you. But what I can say is one benefit is you actually got your leather trousers back on. Reminded me of that scene from Friends where Ross puts all the talcum powder on and then the baby lotion, and it gets into a paste, and he ends up just walking out with his leather trousers in his hands, still in his pants, because he couldn't get them back on. So at least he got them back on.
Yeah.
You should watch. It's very good. Great Top Cat reference as well. I love that. And I'm just going to forgive you because we've all been in similar situations at one point, and I thought you did very well.
Okay. Brother from another
Yes,
gutter.
quick poll of who's worn leather pants in this
Not
studio.
leather pants.
Or leather trousers, whatever.
I wore leather trousers on television.
Really?
I've still got them.
You
I might wear them on Monday.
Do it.
My. Well, I say to you, Olivia, nothing to apologise for. Who are we to judge? Well, we are here to judge. That's the point of this feature. But we are here going to judge and say, which of us? I've never worn them, but I'm sure they clearly did go down very well. But then they got back on, which is what counts. And then you got them out of the wheelie bin. So good for you. And for that reason, I choose to forgive.
People's verdict, please, on the text 61054. Do you forgive leather-trousered Olivia for crashing her way through the wheelie bin and various other debauchery? 61054. Start your message with Simon. People's verdict incoming. Exactly 8 minutes past 6 o'clock. Merely moments ago, you had a leather-trousered confession from Olivia. If you've ever tried to put on leather trousers, Matt, you'll know exactly what the problem was. Olivia was kind of embarrassed about her own tale. But anyway, the people's verdict is in. Here it comes.
So Ray says, forgiven. Absolutely fantastic confession and very funny. The leather trousers were a saving grace. Makes me want to buy some myself. I think my wife will change my mind, though.
Hello.
Marion says, forgiven. My bestie did a similar thing whilst living with me. I heard a crash at about midnight and she was sprawled across the wheelie bin, having climbed over the fence, rather tipsy.
I see.
I said, why didn't you just open the gate? And finally, my favourite one is from Jerry. Utterly forgiven. I laughed so much I spilt a very nice glass of Merlot. I suspect many more have been in a similar position.
Okay, your confessions, please, for next week. Confessions at greatesthitsradio.co.uk. Who gets the smart speaker? Well, Monday we heard from Mr. Farmer, the bodyguard who got revenge by sending pizzas to Celine Dion's room. That one. Monty's confession on Tuesday, our goth with the dead flowers and the weed killer.
Yeah.
Gorgeous George rocking an 80s singlet yesterday with Dawn's grandmother with her nighttime routine.
Yes.
And the leather trouser confession from today. Matt, what are you going to vote for?
I'm going to go for Monday, so that's the one with Celine Dion and the pizzas.
Oh, yes, the Saudi bodyguard.
Yes.
Actually, I didn't mention Saudi, did I? Because I changed that.
It's just our bodyguard.
A bodyguard.
That's the bodyguard.
Nobody heard
That's
that.
right, the
Fine.
Celine Dion one.
Celine Dion.
Susie, what are you going to vote for?
I think I'm with Olivia with the leather trousers.
The leather trousers. I think I'm going to go for leather trousers as well.
Overruled again?
Overruled again.
Unbelievable.
So that means Olivia has won the smart speaker. Send in your confessions, please. Confessions at Greatest Hits Radio.